If you've been in personal growth for a while and you get that your thoughts are things and you're creating your own reality, there comes a time where you start to struggle with the idea of when you should be working on your mindset versus when you should be taking action or just letting the universe do its thing. And so in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you find the balance, because the truth is that all these people out there who are telling you to hustle and grind, no matter how successful they are, they've only really tapped into the tip of the iceberg of their potential if they think you have to hustle and grind, to wake up at 5 a.m., to outwork everyone else. I can tell you from my own experience of going from 2 homes in foreclosure and a bankrupt business, in broken relationships for more than a decade, and addicted to drugs and alcohol and pornography not that long ago, to creating a $30 million transformational company with the woman of my dreams, having thousands of attendees at my live event, building incredible friendships with people who are way more amazing than I am, that I wake up at 7 a.m. at the earliest. Now, I put in a good day's work, but I put my well-being and my family first as best as I can. And I leverage the power of my thoughts and my mind, and I let God or the universe, as best as I can, play the role that they are supposed to play in my life. And doing that is actually much harder than hustling or grinding. So finding the balance and knowing when I should take action and when I should allow and when I need to work on my beliefs, that's real mastery, understanding those differences. And I'm not saying I'm a master. I'm saying that I do know that I'm playing the right game. And if you're here, you're wanting to play the game at the highest level too. So in this episode, I'm going to break down for you how to know when you should be taking massive action, when you should be working more on your mindset, when you should be stepping back and allowing things to unfold, and how much work I actually believe you should be doing on a daily basis, based on my own experience, to be able to achieve extraordinary results and still enjoy your life too. Now, I'm going to start today by sharing with you something I heard earlier today, which really inspired this episode, and that was another very popular podcaster talking about what you need to do in order to be successful. And he was talking about discipline. He was talking about being a savage. He was talking about outworking the competition. He was also talking about don't drink any alcohol, train your body, stop hanging out with your old friends. I believe in a lot of those things too. But it had this energy that was like Hulk smash, and I prefer Doctor Strange. Like, if I look at the Marvel universe, I think he's actually the most badass. Disciplined, yes, but disciplined with the mystic arts, disciplined with the ability to manipulate reality. And in this reality, the way that we do that is through a changed mind. And not enough of these hustle and grind business gurus. A lot of them have, come out of, we see a lot of Navy SEAL mentality now, or coming out of like the gym world. But not enough of these guys put mindset first. And don't get me wrong, you have to have a solid mindset to train, to get strong, to push yourself physically. Absolutely. That's why I push my body. That's why I work out with my trainer. That's why I get in extreme heat in my sauna at 170 degrees, when my mind is like, get me the hell out of here. But I'm able to say, no mind, I'm the boss. We're going to sit here for a full 30 minutes, or jumping in my 43-degree cold plunge for 7 minutes. I don't like doing those things, but I like how I'm able to push my body. But it's more than that. And so in the beginning, if we really want to get first things first, we have to do the groundwork on our limiting beliefs, because no matter how much hustle, no matter how much grind, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter how big your team is, no matter how perfect your plan is, you cannot outproduce your beliefs. And I have the great opportunity to coach people who are just trying to figure out what their purpose is and to go after it. People who are clear on what they're meant to do in this world, and now they're trying to live congruently and actually execute on that clarity. And I also get to work with people who are super, super successful. I've worked with professional athletes. I've worked with people of extraordinary wealth and extraordinary success. And I've been able to see that they all hit an upper limit if they're not putting their beliefs first, if they're not really focused on the root cause of all results that we produce in our life, which is their mindset. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but I just want to bring it back to basics. Your beliefs determine your destiny. And while that may sound like something that you'd hear screamed at you in a motivational, inspirational video, or it's nice to have on a bumper sticker, it's actually a fundamental understanding of behavioral psychology. In behavioral psychology, we're taught, well, a concept that we teach called the 5 primary drivers. And the 5 primary drivers basically says, whatever you believe is going to determine how you think on a moment-by-moment basis. And so early on in your life, before the age of 7, as the prefrontal cortex was forming, as you're scaling out the matrix of your brain, you're going from about 100 billion neurons and 25 billion connections to 100 billion neurons and a quadrillion connections over the first 7 years of your life. You're recording all the experiences of your life, and you're learning. And what you're recording, along with your 5 senses in terms of what you see and what you hear and what you taste and what you touch and what you feel, is the meaning that you give the experiences of your life. And this is a very useful tool because it allows you to remember. You're creating memories. You're assigning a meaning to the sensory experiences that you had, whether it was the first time you experienced a dog, or whether it was observing your parents and the meaning that they gave money, or what it was like going to school at a very early age and the meaning you gave that determined how you felt around yourself, or whether or not you had friends or you could trust other people, or the way that you were treated and how you interpreted it. Your beliefs determine as an adult how you think, because what your brain does is it looks at this situation that you're in, a situation in your workplace or your career, or as you're contemplating growing your business, or as you're involved in the tweaking of some marketing campaign, or an experience of a chronic health condition, or a relationship dynamic, and it says, hey, what do we know about this type of experience? And it looks all the way back in the database, and it finds an early life experience, a memory, and it says, well, what was the meaning we gave the experience way back then? And most of the time, we weren't conscious of the meaning we were giving the experience. It just, boom, happened instantaneously. Dogs are dangerous. Money causes arguments. I can't trust people. I'll do it on my own. I don't need anyone else. And what happens is it starts to shape the lens through which you're experiencing life. And so you start to notice only those things that support the belief that you've developed, and you start to dismiss anything that's not in alignment with the belief. And so here you are as an adult living in sort of a simulated reality that's just a projection of the meaning that you gave some random experience that you don't even remember when you were 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. So it's important to understand that your beliefs determine how you think as an adult. Again, if your experience with money, like so many of us, was growing up where money was hard to make, or money was scarce, or money caused problems, or there wasn't very much of it, then now as you're thinking about making money as an adult, you're only going to have thoughts that are in alignment with money being hard to make, money being scarce, there not being much of it. So that's not conducive to being wealthy and prosperous. So many people out there are wanting to create a different destiny. They want to create more wealth and more abundance, but your beliefs determine your destiny. Because as you're having these thoughts now, as you're interacting with your bills, or you're thinking about growing your business, or contemplating whether or not you ask for a raise at work, you start to have this interaction with money that's not in alignment with prosperity and abundance, and you start to feel those thoughts. You start to experience financial insecurity. You start to experience financial scarcity. You start to experience not being worthy of making a lot of money. Those emotions then convert into actions, and those actions then produce results. And the results that they produce are 100% always directly in alignment with the beliefs that originated them. And so this is what's called a Psycho-Cybernetic Loop. What you believe you think, what you feel, what you feel, you act or do, and what you act or do is the result that you produce, and the result reinforces the belief. So your beliefs dictate your destiny or determine your destiny. That's just a fundamental understanding of behavioral psychology. But at the same time, there's this kind of external, what we would call vibrational reality, where you're creating coincidences and synchronicities in your life. Things seem to line up to support the belief that you have in reproducing itself into the experiences of your life. And that's because all this activity that we talk about at a psychological level is happening at an energetic or electrical magnetic level within your body and around you. And so there's a field that we're all operating from called consciousness, and that's expressing itself through us. All of the Eastern teachings talked about this. that talked about the great shining body of radiance that has no beginning and no end, that is both amidst and beyond the world. The Hindus talked about it. The Buddhists talked about it. The Taoists talked about it. The Egyptians talked about it. The Greek Hermeticists talked about it. The New Science movement turned it into metaphysics and this the idea of law of attraction. And if you're a Bible person and you believe in Jesus, all of the Bible is teaching the laws of consciousness, right? In Matthew it says, "To he that hath even more shall be given; to he that hath not even that shall be taken away." That's understanding the law of attraction. If you believe in abundance, you'll have even more. And if you don't have a lot, that means you don't believe in abundance. Your beliefs are in alignment with scarcity, so even that which you have shall be taken away. In Romans, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So there's one great conversation taking place that's also saying, hey, there's a magic to life, and spirit of the universe will respond to what you believe as well. So it's important that fundamentally we have to work on our beliefs, because you can't outwork your beliefs. It doesn't matter what you do. But you'll notice that in the 5 primary drivers, action is a part of it, right? Action is a part of it. And so the reason why beliefs are so important is because when they're aligned with the outcomes that you want to produce, you'll have productive thoughts, good feeling and inspired and excited emotions, and you'll take inspired action. The mistake a lot of people will make when they get into this mindset work or this idea of thoughts are things or Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich or the secret of the law of attraction is that you can just think your way into amazing results. I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about how that's partly true, right? But you have to take action. You can go to your favorite vegan restaurant and you can hear a bunch of hippies talking about how we're all one and all you need to do is think about abundance and you'll be abundant, but they're all broke. There's a reason for that, right? Because they're living a comfortable life, unwilling to do the things that feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is experienced through this thing called action and taking new behaviors to produce new results in your life. So action is absolutely a part of it. When I started this business, I'd been an entrepreneur. Carol, my wife, and I, we started this business back in 2014. We had an idea. She's like, you really should go out and kind of share what you've learned. And I didn't believe in myself. I'd been an entrepreneur. I'd started other businesses. None of them were particularly successful. But I didn't believe in myself. I borrowed Carol's belief. And in 2014, 2015, I ran a little one-day workshop with 27 friends. I started life coaching for $125 an hour. I started going to all the guru events. I went to the Frank Kern events, the Brendan Burchard events. I did a speaker training with Les Brown. And I knew I wanted success. Carol and I set a goal that in the beginning of 2017, we were going to do our first event. And we set a really high bar. We said we're going to have 300 people at our first event. And if you've ever tried to do an event on your own, a brand that nobody knows about, trying to put 300 people in a room is seemingly impossible. We ended up having 330 people show up at that event. As a result of everything that I'm talking to you about in this episode, knowing when to work your mindset, knowing when to take action, and knowing when to step aside and let the universe do its thing. But I kicked and screamed the whole way through. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I still have a lot of limiting beliefs. I work through this stuff every day. But I have fewer limiting beliefs than I used to. I did the work that I could do on my limiting beliefs at that time, but I also did the work. I had to take action, and I produced results. And what happened is that as I took action and produced results, I was terrified going into my first event, a 3-day event where I'm the only one delivering for 3 days in front of 300 people. So it's on one hand, I was afraid we weren't going to have enough people. And then all of a sudden when we had enough people, I didn't want to do the event. But I did, and I lived, and I survived, and it went well, and that built more confidence. And so you have to take action, but the first step, the foundational piece is you have to become aware of your limiting beliefs. You have to become aware of your fears, your doubts, your resistances, your frustrations, start to inventory them and transform them. And we create a really amazing tool for transforming, I would say, half of your limiting beliefs. Some of them are a little bit more sophisticated, and so we've developed some other tools, but we created this tool called the Decision Matrix. And I know a lot of you in recent episodes have been saying hey, but give us the tool. Okay, I need to change my beliefs. You're saying that's step one, work on my beliefs. Don't believe in all the hustle and grind, and don't worry about your mindset and have no morning rituals or routines. No, in the beginning you need that, absolutely, because you can't outwork your limiting beliefs. You got to start clearing out some of the weeds. And so what are the limiting beliefs? Well, they're basically the fears and frustrations that you have, the doubts that you have. And one of the amazing awarenesses that I had in my own journey was that beliefs are just decisions. So when you were a little kid, for example, and you decided that money caused arguments, because that's what you saw with your parents, that's one thing. But if you're still believing that like money causes arguments, or money is the root of all evil, or money is hard to make, or money is for other people but not you, that's a decision. And it's a really powerful distinction that beliefs are decisions. You know, you just decided in the first grade when your little buddy didn't show up at the drinking fountain that you can't trust anybody. But what happened is you started shaping this lens through which you experience life, because that's how psychology works. Your beliefs started to inform how you think and what you felt and what you did and the results that you produced. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then by the power of coincidence, you started meeting people who betrayed your trust to reinforce this idea that you can't trust people. But like, you're an adult now, and beliefs are just decisions. So you can decide something different. And it's really powerful, because when you realize that beliefs are just decisions and you decide something different, really extraordinary things happen. 3 really powerful things happen. Number 1 is you start to have different thoughts and ideas. So when you decide, for example, that despite your pain, you're going to be well, and that you will not be limited in your life with some sort of chronic disease, you start to have thoughts and ideas about how to get better. You also take the stress and pressure off of yourself, so your body naturally starts to regenerate. The same thing happens when you decide not that you're going to run out of money, a limiting belief that you're going to run out of money, or that you don't have enough, but you make a new powerful decision that you've always had enough. You have enough right now, and you will always have enough. Yeah, maybe you want more, but you have enough. What happens is you start to have thoughts and ideas that create even more enoughness, that create even more wellness, that create even more of what you want. Because remember, beliefs are decisions, and what you believe determines what you think on a moment-by-moment basis. Number 2, you start to perceive your life differently, because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system that's noticing things. You're filtering out, neuroscience tells us this, about 88% of the information that's going on around you. You're only paying attention to about 12%. That 12% is whatever's in alignment with your beliefs. Oh, see, you can't trust people. Oh, see, I knew it. Money's hard to make. There it is. There's the evidence. You ignore all of the evidence around you that proves the opposite. So when you make a new decision, you start to notice things differently. You know, a lot of times when we work with entrepreneurs and we're identifying some of their initial limiting beliefs, they believe they're not worthy. They believe that nobody would pay them for their services. They believe that what they're charging is too much and nobody would enroll and work with them at that price. When we eliminate those limiting beliefs, they show up on the next coaching call. They go, you're not going to believe it. I just enrolled a $9,000 client, and it was somebody I already knew. And we understand that this is how it works. Literally, there's opportunity right in front of you to create the changes that you want in your life, but you're not able to see them as long as you're continuing to operate according to a limiting belief. When you realize beliefs are decisions and you're willing to make a new decision, your perception changes. And then the synchronicities and coincidences that are showing up in your life are also based on the new decisions that you make. So now life starts to work with you, starts to line things up. You start to meet people, right? You start to have a little bit more luck. There's a rebate check in the mail. You start to feel a little bit better. You find the functional medicine doctor that's got the perfect cure for you. You all of a sudden run into your soulmate. Whenever you make a new decision and you drop the resistance, now life can work with you to produce extraordinary results. And a lot of people say, well, okay, if the limiting belief can be converted into a new decision, what's the new decision? It's like, well, think about it. If your decisions dictate your destiny, then you should just think about what you want in your life and reverse engineer your belief systems. Reverse engineer your decisions. So almost 100% of the time, the new decision is just the opposite of the limiting belief. So we need to work on our limiting beliefs. That's going to then push us into inspired action. You're still going to take action. I took a lot of action with my wife to create 300 attendees at our first event. You know, we created a digital course. I went out. I learned how to speak to sell. I was speaking from stages. I was meeting new people. I was creating partnerships. We started doing joint ventures and partner webinars. I had to do a lot of stuff that was really uncomfortable for me because it was new. It was the expansion of who I was. But make no mistake, like I wasn't just sitting around oming 300 people into my live event, you know, or just waiting for a big bag of money to appear on me, you know, next to me on the sofa while I'm watching Netflix and eating cheesy poofs. That's not how it works. Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind. Go beyond self-awareness, rewire your brain, and re-engineer your reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now, back to your regularly scheduled episode. So your mindset is critically important. It doesn't matter what action you do take if you don't have the right mindset, if you've got a lot of limiting beliefs that are incongruent with what you want to create. And if you have the right mindset, you'll start to feel free to take more inspired action. But just know action is a really important part of it. And so you're going to get to a point where you've done the work, you've done the mindset, you've got yourself to a point where you're taking some new action. And working on our limiting beliefs and metabolizing our childhood traumas, it's not a thing that happens overnight. It's a journey. And it's a good thing too, because every time we clear something out, we create more expansion. So if you want to have a more expansive life, you better get used to finding more shit inside of you that needs to be cleared out. Because every time you clear it out, it creates expansion, it creates new ideas, it creates opportunity. You get bigger, you get stronger, you become more capable of all of the resources and the beauty that life has in store for you. And so, at some point, you stop looking at it as junk inside of you and you start realizing that it's like raw carbon that through the pressure of your own experience, you're converting into diamonds, and you're just a diamond mine. And so your job is to start mining all the diamonds or mining all the gold. But you're going to get to a point, and this is where the hustle and grinders make a point, where you're going to have to do some things regardless of how you feel about it. So you're going to get to a point where you're doing the mindset work and it's a part of your regular routine and regular schedule. And you know that some of your limiting beliefs are still holding you back and creating tension on your system and inducing fear, anxiety, insecurity, procrastination, self-sabotage, comparing, indecision. But you're going to know what the right action is in order to start moving towards the results that you want. You're going to know what the courageous action is, even though it's uncomfortable. And you're now going to have the capacity, as a result of the groundwork that you've done, clearing out some of your limiting beliefs, to, even though you're scared, take the action anyway. That happened to me right before our first event. I said Carol and I did a lot to produce the results, but you know what? The universe showed up too, and I was on a flight coming back from Atlanta. I had just spoken my first talk that I ever gave to a group of 15 business owners. My friend was in a business networking group called Vistage. He really liked my work. He said, hey, I mentioned you to my Vistage chair. She'd love to have you come up and present to the group. I was like, wow, that's kind of intimidating, presenting to 15 people, but I'll go do it. I had developed some new beliefs. I made some new decisions. I was finding evidence for the fact that they were true, that this message was worthy of being heard, that I was capable of delivering it, that I was the one, that people would enjoy what I had to share instead of all the garbage that was inside of me, using tools like the decision matrix. So I went up and I presented to this group of 15 business owners. And I was on the flight back, and man, it's so crazy how coincidences happen. I'm about 6'7". If you're watching in the studio right now, listening to the episode, you can't tell because I'm sitting here, but I'm a big dude. I see eye to eye with Tony Robbins. I have seen eye to eye with Tony Robbins. In fact, I looked down on him by about 1/4 of an inch. And at that time I was flying economy. I was like, I can't afford business class. And I noticed that my name was like 5th on the upgrade list. So I said, hey, like how many seats are still available in business class? And they said, well, we've got one person, 2 people who aren't checked in yet. And it looks like only one person from the wait list is going to make it into business class. I was like, I'm number 5. And it was an elderly gentleman, just like a really beautiful energy. And so I was playful with him. And I said, they really should do this by height, not status. And he laughed, and he pressed a couple of buttons on his keyboard, and all of a sudden a new ticket popped out, like 4B. And he handed it to me. He said, don't tell anybody. He said, but you're right. You're tall. Take business class. So there I am sitting in business class. And all of a sudden my phone rings and my dad calls me. And my dad calls me like once a week, once every 2 weeks. Doesn't call me every day. My dad called me that day and said, hey, what are you doing? And I had not really shared with my dad what I was teaching. And I didn't think he'd understood like this coaching thing that I was doing. He understood my previous businesses because I had been an entrepreneur building online businesses. He said, what are you doing anyway? And I said, explain to him. I said, well, I'm helping people understand how, mindset is the root cause of everything they want to create. And I'm working with entrepreneurs, and I just spoke to a group of business owners. And he said, well, what did you teach? I said, well, I taught that beliefs are decisions. I taught this kind of understanding of behavioral psychology where people could understand that their beliefs are creating their destiny. I taught a tool called the decision matrix to help people start shifting their beliefs. And I was explaining to him how the brain worked and how coincidence and synchronicity worked and a little bit around the quantum field without going too deep with my dad. And I got off the phone with my dad, and there was a guy, I guess he was the other guy in business class, who sat down in the seat next to me, and he was literally leaning in my seat trying to overhear my conversation with my dad. So like I get off the phone, I turn to my right, he's leaning on me, he gets off of me, really big dude, nice looking man, well dressed, like, nice suit, businessman, you know what I mean? And he said, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I get excited when I talk about this stuff. And he said, no, I was blown away by what you were talking about. You were kind of like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer, like all rolled up into one. Like if they all had a baby, it would be you, except much shorter. And I said, wow, thanks. Like, that's a huge compliment. And he said, no, I've never heard anybody break down personal growth like that before. What are you doing on Sunday? This was a Friday, right? I'm flying back to Orlando. I said, well, I don't have any plans Sunday. I'm getting ready for my event like 2 or 3 weeks from now. And we had about 270 people registered for the event at that point, but I didn't know how we were going to sell any more tickets. So while I was excited, I'm like, I guess we're going to fall short of our 300-person goal that Carol and I had set. So he says, well, listen, I'm bringing 1,000 wealth advisors into Orlando. I'm running the conference. I want to give you 45 minutes on the main stage to share with the entire audience what you just shared with your dad. And I was like, holy shit. And every fiber in my body was like, no way. I just gave my first talk to 15 people, but what came out of my mouth was, absolutely, what time would you like me to be there? And so there's going to be a point where you've just got to say yes, and you've got to do the things, even though you're terrified, even though you're fearful, even though you have a lot of doubts, and you can't wait around until you've got perfect limiting beliefs. And the reason for that is because it's actually through taking the action and seeing that whatever you believed, which was the worst case scenario, didn't happen, that's the way that you actually start to bust those beliefs. So you can only get so far, journaling, listening to audios or podcasts like this, or doing digital courses, or even being in coaching. You got to take what you've learned at some point and get out on the road and road test it. And you have to take the action despite the fact that it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because there's some limiting beliefs still there. And going back to the hustle and grinders, and the you got to be fit and you got to be strong recommendations, I agree with that. I think it's really important to push your body physically, because when I'm in the sauna at 170 degrees and I'm like, I have to get the hell out of here, and I don't let myself get out of there, that's exactly the way I felt as I was backstage at this event that Sunday with 1,000 people in the audience. I was like, I have to get the hell out of here. And I was like, no, I am the boss. We're going to do this. Because if I'm going to create the vision I have for my business, my impact, my income, my life, and not get to the end of my life and look back and go, shit, man, like you didn't achieve your full potential, I'm going to have to be uncomfortable. So you have to take the action. It's a very important thing to understand. So number one, you got to do the limiting beliefs foundation, and it's important. Don't buy into all the hustle and grinders. Number two, it's going to get to a point where you do need to take the action, even though the resistance is there, and you can't just keep leaning on your mindset or incantations or affirmations. It's through action that the next level of limiting beliefs are going to become broken, and that you're going to become broken. The old you will become broken, and the new you is going to start to emerge from it. And as you do this, because it's a never-ending process, you'll start to realize I can do this, and it will become easier over time. That's what resistance training is, right? You're training through resistance. And as you get stronger, you're able to work through the same resistance with less effort and take on more resistance with the same level of effort. You know that you're capable of handling more. And so that's a signal to life that says, give me more. Because every time life gives you opportunities, it also gives you higher quality problems. And if you haven't done your resistance training, you're not going to be able to work through those problems. And life has a very sophisticated way of knowing what to give you just to put you through the resistance that you can handle. It's the idea of giving you the cross that you can bear. So you can actually speed up the process by willing to take on the resistance and working through it. You have to be able to do that. Now, for you A-type hustle grinders who are listening to this, there is a question: when do you rest? Because you've been hustling, you've been grinding, you've been pushing. Maybe you started out as someone with a lot of fears and doubts, and then you kind of got addicted to the pushing and the controlling and the grinding, right? There are people who do that. They get addicted to training, and then they get imbalanced, or then they create an injury. So when do you rest and when do you take action? And this is something that took me a while to learn. And it was really something I learned working with my super high performance clients who were hustle and grinders. They were actually afraid to rest. So the first thing is you rest when you need to. But the second thing is you rest when you'd be scared to rest. You rest when you'd be scared to rest. Because for people who are used to pushing really hard, if you think about it for a second, your limiting beliefs always invoke some sort of fear inside of you, right? That's what happens. You move from a powerful state into a primal state. You move from the parasympathetic rest and relaxation and place of inspiration and intuition, the parasympathetic nervous system, into the fight or flight of the animal. And so fear is the determining factor. When you feel fear, that's when there is a limiting belief. And so my hustle and grinders, you're afraid to rest. And so the time for you to rest is when you're most afraid that you don't have the time to rest. Just like for those of you who aren't taking enough action, kind of like me in the beginning, the time for you to take action is when you're terrified of taking the action. So this is a really important distinction. Rest is important. Balance is important. Rest is not only important so that we can refresh our mind, so that we can restore our bodies. I mean, there's, all kinds of scientific research that talks about the importance of rest. And I'm not talking about just sleeping. I'm talking about meditating. I'm talking about going for a walk. I'm talking about the joy of spending time with your loved ones, taking a vacation, engaging in a hobby. When you create space away from the things that you're hustling, grinding around, that's when new ideas come in. That's where innovation emerges. So you come back refreshed. Otherwise, you just keep wearing and tearing. So rest is really, really important. But the other important thing about rest is you're stepping away from control and trying to control your circumstances and scenarios, and you're allowing the universe or life or the quantum field to operate. You're stepping away. So this is a very important thing to understand. Right? Just like the fear of doing the thing is the thing we need to work through for those of you who are feeling, like you're not good enough or like you're incapable or you can't do it. If you're really, really capable and you've overdeveloped that capacity and you're afraid of resting and stepping away because you feel like you can't, that's the thing that you need to do. And the amazing thing is that when you're willing to do it, you become even more powerful because now you start to become a master of both effort and space, of both action and surrender. And what you'll see is no matter which one of those two types of people you are, fear is the enemy, right? Fear is the thing that is preventing you from either doing or from resting. Does that make sense? The third piece here, right? We've talked so far about you got to do the mindset work because you can't outwork your mindset, but there's going to be a point in time in which you got to take action because you can't just sit around doing mindset all the time. You're going to bust through those next level limiting beliefs and break out as the new you through taking action in the face of your limiting beliefs and in the face of your fear. And if you're over-actioning the thing that you're going to need to do in order to open up more potential and create more by doing less is to actually rest because that's the thing that you're afraid of. Find a hobby, spend some time with your family. Stop putting that off until some day way off in the future where you've, I don't know, accomplished everything. But the third piece is like, how do you actually let the universe in? You know, if you're here, it's because you believe that there is a corresponding nature to life, that there is a guiding hand, that there is a God or a universe or an Allah or a Jesus or a quantum field or an intelligence, a higher power that is functioning in cooperation and coordination with you to actually create stuff. And there's a reason why we call this thing infinite intelligence. And you know what? If you've got infinite intelligence as your number one draft pick and it's on your team, then let the thing do its job. You know, universe, been here 13 billion years for you, doing pretty much everything, including organizing the cosmos, making sure we have enough oxygen and water on the planet, filling your bank account, finding you your soulmate. Let it do its job. So how do we reconcile that when it's time for us to take action? Right? We have a serenity prayer in recovery. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think another way you could say that prayer is like, God, you know, grant me the courage to take the action where you want me to take the action and to step back when it's your battle to win. Scripture talks about this all the time. Be still and know that I am God. Stand down. It's the Lord's battle. It's not your battle to fight. And we're asked to take action, right? So what I've learned over the course of my journey is whenever I'm starting to feel too much tension, I stand down. Whenever there isn't anything that I can do, there's not action that I'm taking where I'm moving through fear, doing things that I know I should do to forward whatever I want to create. But I literally am taking action and I'm not getting the results, or I'm getting frustrated and angry, or I'm entangled too much with the problem, I step away completely. To me, that's God's signal that, hey man, this ain't your thing to do. And some people say, yeah, but you know, what about those times where, you know, you try something and you get knocked down and you get back up and you get knocked down and you get back up, you know, like the Rocky Balboa story. I'm not saying that you don't get back up. I'm saying step away for a little bit. Step away and allow the problem to change. If you're in a circumstance or situation and you're experiencing a problem that you just can't solve, Einstein told us this. He said, you can't solve the problem with the same consciousness that created it. And so sometimes what happens is we've created a problem in our life because thoughts are things and they do create your reality. So you've created a problem and now you're dealing with a problem that's shown up and you're so entangled with the problem that you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're afraid. And so you're trying to solve the problem from the frequency of problems. You're trying to solve the problem from the frequency of problems. Einstein says you have to solve the problem from the frequency of the solution. Well, what's the frequency of the solution? Well, if you think about it, all the things that you're grateful for in your life, they were once not there and they were a problem, and now they are there and you've materialized them and you're grateful for them. So there was a problem, like you didn't have a loved one, or you didn't have a child, or you didn't have your health, or you didn't have enough money in your bank account, and then you did. It turned into a solution, and those are things you're now grateful for. That's the frequency of the solution. So when I'm too entangled with a problem, and I know I need to let the universe in, what I do is I go spend time with things that I enjoy, because that is the frequency of the solution. So some of my high-performing CEO clients, when they're going about a problem and they get entangled with the problem and everything is about the problem now, the problem is all that matters. And what you make matter becomes matter. It matterifies. So they're just like, they can't get rid of the problem because it's become so real. They're like, Dave, I need a business plan. What do I do? How do I solve this problem? I'm like, go out on a date night. That's your business plan. You like to swim, Bob. Go for a big, long swim. Take a long weekend. My meditators, go meditate. You've been doing your spiritual practice? What are the healthy activities that you should be engaged in? Go back to church. Go participate and be of service in a philanthropic project that you're passionate about, that you used to be spending a lot of time doing, but now you don't have the time because you're so involved with your problems. So we teach an equation. It's so powerful. If you want to produce any desired result in your life, the equation is desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. Have a desire, which you already have. You've already done that part. Now be non-resistant. And sometimes what you'll find is as you're working towards producing change in your life, materializing these desires that you have, you get so entangled and resistant with the problem, and you keep pushing on the problem just keeps bigger and bigger and bigger. So the opportunity is to step away from the problem. I'm not saying that you won't come back and be involved in the solution. You might be, but sometimes when we step away from the problem, lo and behold, the problem's gone. You stop worrying about your physical challenge. You've been going from doctor to doctor to doctor, and you leave it alone, and then before you know it, you're like, my God, I haven't even been feeling it for the last week. You stop trying to solve this fear of financial insecurity. All of a sudden, you get a rebate check, a job promotion. So if we can focus on the frequency of the solution when we start to get entangled with problems, and that is joy in your life, go enjoy the things that have materialized as a response to what were once problems, the beautiful things in your life. And then you will start to have the thoughts and the ideas to either come back and be solution-oriented with the problem, or the problem itself will dissolve. So this is the structure that I try to live by. I don't do it perfectly. I'm not saying you should do it perfectly, but I am saying you should know what game you're wanting to play. Yes, mindset is important. It's critical. It's the foundation. It's the root cause. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't get addicted to mindset and think you can just do mindset without taking action. You're going to have to take action at some point. It's resistance training. If you're over-actioning, you might notice that the resistance or limiting belief you have is around rest. And that might be the thing that you need to do, or start cycling that in those moments where everything in your nervous system is telling you that's the one thing you can't do. That's the irony of it. Then it's the solution. And then lastly, let the universe do its thing. How do you know when it's time to kind of surrender and let go of something for a little while or completely? Well, when the problem becomes something that you're too entangled with. When you're in a bunch of resistance around something, stop trying to solve it. Walk away, let the universe do its thing. It will work coincidences. It will work synchronicities. It will take care of the problem on its own, or it will give you, now that you've moved into the frequency of the solution, which is the things you enjoy in your life, it will give you solutions through inspiration, intuition, and ideas. And then, of course, it's your job to then put those things into action as joyfully as you possibly can. So I hope I answered a question you had. That was my goal for today's episode, maybe more than one. If you're listening on YouTube, do me a favor, leave me some comments, let me know what resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, smash the bell icon, because that's what you need to get notifications of future episodes. And if you're joining me on your favorite audio platform, I love a rating and a review. If you can give one, that would be fantastic. So I love you guys. You're doing a fantastic job. Let's keep going deeper together, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.